What if I told you the habits quietly destroying your happiness are the ones you don't even notice? I once spoke with a man named Thomas, 76 years old, outwardly composed, thoughtful, and kind. But during a quiet moment, he looked me in the eye and said, "I haven't made a real decision for myself in over 10 years. I just go along with what others expect. No complaints. No drama. Just a heartbreaking confession of silent surrender." And the truth is, he's not alone. As we get older, we tend to slip into patterns that feel safe, avoiding conflict, keeping our thoughts to ourselves, putting others first, or withdrawing from things we used to love. But those small choices, they build up. They slowly chip away at your spirit, your confidence, and your ability to live life on your terms. You see, growing older doesn't mean giving up. It means living wiser. It means protecting your well-being with intention. And most of all, it means realizing you still have the power to change, grow, and rediscover what it means to truly feel alive. In today's video, we're diving into 7 critical things you must stop doing right now to take back control of your life. These habits may seem harmless on the surface, but they quietly rob you of strength, peace, and meaning. I've seen it in my work with hundreds of older adults over the past decade. The difference between thriving in your later years and merely surviving often comes down to what you're willing to let go of. Especially habit number 3, it's the one that catches people off guard the most, and by the time they notice, it's already cost them years of joy. So please, if this message speaks to you, I encourage you to like this video and subscribe so you never miss the content that could bring real change to your life. And when something I say hits home, drop a comment below. I promise you, your story matters. You are not too old, and you are not done. In fact, this may be the most powerful chapter of your life, if you choose it to be. Now, let's begin with the very first thing you need to stop doing, and why it might be the key to reclaiming your voice and your freedom. Stop accepting everything without questioning. Have you ever said yes when your heart was screaming no, just to keep the peace? It may seem small, a quiet agreement, a polite nod, a decision made for the sake of harmony. But over time, these small silences add up. And before you know it, you become a background character in your own life. This is one of the most common and most dangerous habits I've seen in older adults. We start thinking it's easier not to push back. We tell ourselves, it's not worth the argument, or they know better, or worst of all, my opinion doesn't really matter anymore. But here's the truth. When you stop questioning, you start disappearing. Every time you agree to something that doesn't feel right, you give away a piece of your voice. And the longer you do this, the harder it becomes to recognize what you actually want, what you believe, what you value, and what brings you joy. I've worked with older patients who haven't challenged a family member in years. They nod through financial decisions they don't understand, health choices they're unsure about, and even housing plans they never agreed to just to avoid being seen as difficult. But at what cost? When you silence yourself long enough, you don't just lose control. You lose confidence. You begin to doubt your own instincts. And that's when fear takes over, fear of change, fear of standing alone, fear of rocking the boat. But here's the good news. Reclaiming your voice doesn't have to be loud or confrontational. Sometimes, it's as simple as saying, "Let me think about that." Or, "I'm not comfortable with this." Or even just asking, "Why?" You've lived decades. You've raised families, built careers, survived losses, and learned more than most people will ever understand. Your voice doesn't lose value with age, it gains it. So stop handing over the steering wheel. This is your life. Trust your experience. Trust your wisdom. And most of all, trust that you deserve to be heard. And speaking of voices, we often lose ours most when we isolate ourselves. Which brings us to the next habit you need to break, withdrawing from the world around you. Stop isolating yourself socially. Have you ever noticed how silence can sneak up on you? At first, it feels peaceful, no obligations, no noise, no pressure. But slowly, that quiet becomes heavy. It lingers. It starts to feel less like peace and more like isolation. And the truth is, loneliness doesn't arrive all at once. It seeps in gradually, through missed calls, declined invitations, and the growing habit of saying, "Maybe next time." I've seen this time and time again in my years working with older adults. What begins as a break from social activity turns into weeks of solitude, and then months. You stop attending events because they feel overwhelming. You stop calling friends because you worry about being a bother. You start convincing yourself that the world has simply moved on without you. But here's what science and experience tells us. Isolation is a silent threat. It doesn't just affect your mood. It damages your health. Prolonged loneliness has been linked to depression, high blood pressure, cognitive decline, even a shortened lifespan. Your brain is wired for connection. Human interaction stimulates memory, sharpens focus, and boosts emotional resilience. Without it, things begin to fade, inside and out. One woman I worked with once told me, "I thought I just needed rest. But what I needed was people." That sentence stuck with me. Because connection isn't about being surrounded by crowds, it's about being seen, heard, and valued. Whether it's a phone call with a loved one, joining a community group, chatting with a neighbor, or even waving to someone on your morning walk, these small acts matter. They're not just social gestures, they're lifelines. If you've been retreating, I invite you to step forward again. Say yes to the invitation. Walk into the sunlight. Reconnect with someone, even if it's just a simple hello. You're not meant to disappear quietly. You still have stories to share, laughter to spread, and love to receive. And speaking of disappearing quietly, too many people also begin neglecting their bodies as they age, telling themselves it's too late to make a difference. But nothing could be further from the truth. Let's talk next about why ignoring your physical health might be the most dangerous habit of all. 3. Ngung bo bsuc ko vi quam yuan de thay doi. Have you ever looked in the mirror and thought, what's the point? I'm too old to change anything now? That single belief has quietly sabotaged the health of more seniors than any disease I've ever treated. And the tragedy is, it's simply not true. I once worked with a 78-year-old man who hadn't exercised in over 30 years. He told me, "My body's too far gone. This is just how it is." But 3 months after starting daily 15-minute walks and swapping soda for water, his blood pressure dropped, his balance improved, and for the first time in years, he said he felt like himself again. The idea that you're too old to improve your health is one of the most dangerous lies we tell ourselves. Aging doesn't mean your body gives up. It means it needs you to show up with more care. Small changes, done consistently, can yield powerful results. I'm not talking about running marathons or lifting weights at the gym. I'm talking about simple, achievable acts. Walking every day, stretching in the morning, choosing whole foods over processed snacks, drinking more water, getting quality sleep. These aren't just wellness slogans. They are real tools that protect your heart, support your bones, boost your memory, and help prevent falls. More importantly, they remind you of something even bigger, that you still matter, and your body is worth fighting for. I've seen people in their 80s reduce medication, improve their mobility, and even regain their independence just by committing to small acts of self-care. Your body has carried you through decades of life. Don't abandon it now. Nurture it, listen to it, and treat it like a lifelong companion, because that's exactly what it is. When you care for your health, you're not just adding years to your life, you're adding life to your years. And if that voice inside you still says, "It's too late," talk back. Say, "Maybe I'm just getting started." And speaking of what we tell ourselves, there's another habit that quietly robs joy from countless older adults, the tendency to live in the past and miss what's right in front of us. Let's talk next about how to stop being stuck in yesterday and start living fully today. 4. Stop living in the past. Have you ever caught yourself replaying old memories, wishing you could go back to the way things used to be? It starts with a song, a scent, or a photo, and suddenly, you're not here anymore. You're somewhere decades behind, holding on to people who are gone, reliving moments that will never return. And while memories are beautiful, living in them too long can quietly become a prison. I've met so many older adults who tell me, "The best years are behind me." They say it with a smile, but behind their eyes, I see a quiet grief, a belief that their story has already peaked. But let me tell you something I've learned after years of working with people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. The moment you stop writing your story is the moment life stops feeling alive. There's nothing wrong with remembering. The problem is when remembering replaces living. When every conversation starts with "back when" and ends with regret. When today is just a shadow of what yesterday used to be. The truth is, if you're still breathing, you still have purpose. You still have mornings to wake up to, people to meet, smiles to give, and lessons to share. You still have chances to surprise yourself. The past can teach you, inspire you, and comfort you, but it should never define your future. You are not just a collection of what happened before. You are also who you are becoming, even now. Start something new. Learn that language. Plant the flowers. Take the trip. Let go of the script that says life has to be behind you. What if your best chapter is still unwritten? What if joy is still waiting for you, just past the next yes? You'll never know unless you step forward. Because when we anchor ourselves to what's gone, we miss what's growing around us. And speaking of giving too much away, there's one more thing many seniors sacrifice, without even noticing: their own happiness for the sake of others. In the next part, we'll talk about why constantly putting others first might be hurting you more than helping them, and how to finally break free from that silent burden. 5. Stop sacrificing your happiness for others. Have you ever asked yourself, when is it my turn? If that question hit a nerve, it's probably because you've spent years, maybe decades, putting everyone else first. You made the meals, kept the peace, stayed silent, said yes when your body was screaming no. And while caring for others is beautiful, there's a fine line between compassion and self-erasure. I once sat with a woman in her 70s who told me she'd never taken a solo trip, never pursued her favorite hobby again after having kids, never even said out loud that she didn't want her grandchildren to move in, because she thought loving meant sacrificing everything. But love is not supposed to cost you your joy. Over time, this constant self-sacrifice doesn't just exhaust you, it empties you. And the hardest part? Sometimes the people you give the most to don't even realize how much it's costing you. They begin to expect your yes. They forget your needs. And suddenly, your life becomes a cycle of giving without ever receiving. But here's what I've learned after years of working with older adults. Burnout at 70 looks different. It's quieter, lonelier, and far harder to bounce back from. Your well-being matters just as much as anyone else's. And putting yourself first isn't selfish, it's survival. It's self-respect. Saying no doesn't mean you don't love them. It means you're finally loving yourself enough to set a boundary. You've earned that right. You've earned mornings that belong to you, time that feels free, rest that doesn't carry guilt, and dreams that don't get postponed for someone else's comfort. So ask yourself, what would happen if you gave just a fraction of the love you give to others back to you? You might be amazed at how alive you feel again. You're not here just to serve. You're here to live. And speaking of limits, there's one more that many people ignore, sometimes out of pride, sometimes out of fear. In the next part, we'll talk about why it's time to stop pretending you can do everything and start honoring the very real boundaries your body and emotions are trying to protect. 6. Stop ignoring your limits. Have you ever told yourself, I can still do it, I don't need help? That single sentence has led to more injuries, exhaustion, and quiet suffering than you might imagine. I've met countless older adults who keep pushing, lifting, carrying, saying yes to everyone and everything, because they believe slowing down means giving up. But here's the truth. Acknowledging your limits isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Your body has carried you through decades of joy, pain, work, family, and sacrifice. It's allowed to feel tired. It's allowed to need rest. The same goes for your emotional health. You don't have to pretend you're always okay. You don't have to carry everyone else's burdens while suppressing your own. I once counseled a retired nurse who refused to ask her kids for help, even after a bad fall. She told me, I don't want to seem like a burden. But what she didn't realize was that her silence was putting her at greater risk, not just physically, but emotionally. When we ignore our limits, we invite harm. When we pretend we're invincible, we deny ourselves the care we truly need. The reality is, you're not 40 anymore, and that's not something to be ashamed of. It's something to honor. The wisdom of aging lies not in pushing harder, but in choosing more wisely. Rest when you need to. Ask for help when it matters. Say no without guilt. Choose the slower path if it keeps you safe. Protect your peace the way you once protected your family. You've earned the right to move at your own pace, to adapt, to release the pressure to prove yourself. And here's the beauty. When you respect your boundaries, you don't lose strength. You gain clarity. You begin to spend your energy where it truly matters. You begin to live with intention. And speaking of intention, there's one final area where many people silently withdraw, not because they have to, but because they think they should. In the next part, we'll uncover why avoiding intimacy and affection in later life could be robbing you of one of your greatest sources of joy, connection, and even health. 7. Stop avoiding intimacy and emotional connection. When was the last time someone held your hand? Not out of necessity, but out of love. That question might feel simple, or it might sting, because far too many older adults have been quietly taught to believe that affection, intimacy, and touch are no longer appropriate past a certain age. And that is a lie we must unlearn. You see, human connection doesn't expire with youth, it only deepens. I've spoken with people in their 60s, 70s, even 80s who've said, that part of life is behind me. But why should it be? You're still human. You still long for warmth, for closeness, for someone to look you in the eye and say, I see you. I care about you. Avoiding intimacy doesn't protect you. It slowly disconnects you from a powerful source of healing. Emotional and physical closeness, whether it's a kiss, a conversation, or just resting your head on someone's shoulder, reduces stress, boosts your immune system, supports your heart, and even improves sleep. And more importantly, it reminds you that you're still alive, not just functioning, but feeling. Yes, the body changes with age, but connection? That evolves too. Maybe it's not about performance or passion the way it once was. Maybe it's about comfort, safety, trust. Maybe it's about learning how to be fully present with another soul without needing to prove anything. You're not too old for intimacy. You're just old enough to finally understand what it really means. And if shame, fear, or outdated beliefs have kept you silent, let this be your permission to feel again, to love again, to let someone in. Because affection isn't a luxury. It's a basic human need. Whether you're single or partnered, what matters is allowing yourself to be emotionally available, to connect, to express, to receive. And if you've forgotten how, that's okay. It's never too late to rediscover it. And speaking of rediscovery, let's end this journey with one final reminder. Everything you've learned in this video is not just knowledge, it's a map. A guide to help you reclaim your energy, your voice, your body, and your heart, so that the next chapter of your life isn't just lived, it's truly felt. Maybe as you listen to these 7 habits, a few of them hit home. Maybe you nodded quietly. Maybe you even teared up a little. And if that's true, know this, you are not alone. You're not the only one who has lost touch with parts of yourself over the years. You're not the only one who's said yes too often, stayed quiet too long, or believed that love, strength, or joy had an expiration date. But here's the truth I want you to carry with you from this moment forward. It's never too late to begin again. No matter how long you've been stuck in routine, regret, or silence, you still have the power to choose differently. You can reclaim your voice. You can reconnect. You can care for your body in a new way. You can let yourself feel deeply again. You can rewrite the rules you were taught about aging, worthiness, and love. Starting again doesn't require a grand gesture. Sometimes it begins with one small act of courage, saying no for the first time, going for a short walk, making that phone call, opening your heart just a little more. You are not here to fade quietly. You are here to live, to feel, to grow, even now. Especially now. So here's my invitation to you. Start today. Pick one habit from this video that spoke to you most and take one small step toward change. You don't have to do it all. You just have to begin. And if this video helped you see something more clearly or feel something more deeply, I would truly love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and share your thoughts, your story, or just one thing you're choosing to stop or start today. Your experience matters. You never know who you might inspire. And if this message resonated with you, please take a second to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you won't miss the videos that are made just for you. Because this is your time. This is your life. And you deserve to live it fully, freely, and on your own terms.